today guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the review of this of the GS on my touring perspective. The reason why the video is coming so late because again I am a bit lazy, but most importantly, I had to try this out on a longer period. I did a 500-kilometer tour as well to Bangalore. So including that, now I have got a fair idea how this bike actually performs when it comes to touring and even for off-road. So I think now is the best time, and that I have clocked 6,000 kilometers. It's actually a decent time that I can comment on this bike on its touring review. So yes. So before we go further, if you haven't been into my channel, so do subscribe if you like this video, and definitely share it with your friends, whoever is into motorbikes and motorcycle touring. What can I say? Let's talk about this particular touring review. So the first point is about the engine refinement. So in the total rides that I had, I did not find refinement as an issue to me, because what happens, this bike, like all other bikes as well, it has got its own time period to settle up with the engine. So in the initial half an hour to maybe 1 hour also, you might find that the engine is not that responsive, and you might not get the certain amount of torque that you wish for. But once you cross that 1 hour or 30 minutes of riding, then you will find that the engine is actually very torquey, and it gives you that smooth ride quality that you wish for in a touring. So in short, for touring, this bike will serve the best. And as far as refinement is concerned, that's not a problem in this. You might find the refinement issue before the first service, and maybe I'll say about 2.5 thousand kilometers. So that time maybe the refinement is a problem, but otherwise I don't think that's a major problem as such. In the idle RPMs, there are a few vibes, but when you go past 3000 RPM, that time the vibrations are at the minimum. So apart from that, in the idle RPM, and suppose if you are going above 8000 RPM, then you might again find that the vibrations can become a little bit, you might feel that there are vibrations, but otherwise I don't feel that vibration is a major issue. In terms of touring, I'll say the sweet spot for this particular engine, the sweet spot for this bike is about 90 to 110. So up to 120 it's very easy. I'll say even 130. After 130, then it is a little sluggish. I mean, if you have a lot of weight, and if you are not giving that aerodynamic, if you are creating an aerodynamic resistance, then above 130, 135 can become a little time consuming, or it won't exceed that speed. So yes, when I was coming from Bangalore, it is the Asian Highway, and pretty open roads. and in most of the stretches, except for when you just about to reach Bangalore and in the Hooghly area. So otherwise the roads are pretty clear, and you can, on the straight roads, I mean, you can easily keep it about 130 kilometers an hour without any problem. Okay, there will be wind blast. After about 100 kilometers you might feel that there is a wind blast, but I think if you have a good wind resistance, and if you tuck down a bit, then the wind loss will not be a major issue. I mean, I was riding in this upright position when I was at about 120, but as soon as I touched about 130, then I had to tuck down like this, so that the wind was just passing over my head. So that was the idea behind the wind loss. And also, if you've seen over here, I've added a few risers. I mean, I've added the orange risers over here. This has actually put this particular wind screen, or whatever you say this, it has actually put it on a vertical angle, so the angle has changed. So earlier, before doing this, the wind used to come exactly on my chin, somewhat near my chin. But after doing this, the wind blast is somewhat coming near my eyes. So there is a little the benefit that I've got from this. Also, when I try to bend down, when I try to keep my head about like this, that time most of the wind blast is going above the helmet. So that time if you do that, probably you can achieve about 145, even 150, but on the open roads. So yeah, that was the cruising speed that I was talking about. 90 to 100 is the sweet spot, I'll say. 90 to 110, and but you can easily cruise at 120 to 130. Okay, so under the condition that you are having a good windscreen, okay, or you have put some risers, or you're trying to bend down. Okay, but on my empty helmet, up to 120 I don't feel much of an issue. Even 130, there is a wind resistance that I felt on my helmet, but you have to, you cannot just sit upright and go. You need a bigger windscreen. I mean, I am going to have a bigger windscreen over here, but that's still in plans. Okay, probably when I'll do my next tour, I will be buying the windscreen. In my earlier video, you might have seen that the exhaust I have actually hated, and that's true. I mean, if you just start the engine and show it to your friends, this is how the bike is. But the exhaust sound is not something that everyone will like. Most of the people are going to hate the idle engine exhaust, because it's very rough. It sounds almost like a rickshaw. So that's why people will hate it. But otherwise, if you're riding in the cruising range, then the exhaust is pretty smooth, and there is a nice sweet tone that you will get after a certain RPM, like 7000 RPM. Then as soon as you de-throttle it, there is a smooth like what do you say, that's a smooth sounding tone. So that, and when it goes up, so coming next is your suspension. Okay, so guys, this bike, one of the plus point of this bike is your suspension setup. I mean, the suspension setup is so it is so plush that like seat breakers like this will actually, you'll not feel it. I mean, I was just riding my Activa, okay, yesterday, and a minor speed bump, and I was feeling like something is just hitting my back. But on this, you go at any speed. I have faced the worst speed breakers when I was coming from Bangalore, and it did not affect anything. I mean, your bike was stable. Okay, you did not feel like you are getting thrown out of the bike. So it was very much stable. When it comes to the suspension setup, I'll say that for touring is the best. One probably disadvantage, not a disadvantage, I'll say maybe something that you can adjust upon is that when you have a pillion seat and your suspension might bottom out. So your rear suspension might definitely bottom out if you have a pillion who is on a little heavier side. So the suspension can bottom out. But if you're riding solo, then it's not going to burden anything to you. Yeah, but you do have an option to adjust the preload. So if you're someone who is riding with a pillion a lot, then probably you can just adjust the preload setting, okay, for your rear. In the front, definitely the preload option is not available, so your front can bottom out, but not that's not in much of the use. If you're seeing these guards that I have, so this total, the upper guard, lower guard, and the engine plate, everything is about 15 kilos. So the actual weight of this bike is somewhat 190 kg, and so the front suspension now is actually, it has slightly, so the front suspension is actually little dip right now. If I remove these front guards, and probably the suspension, the travel will definitely increase, and you might get better comfort when it comes to off-road. But on normal highway touring, this is not a problem. Reason behind is that it will keep your bike stable, it will keep it planted, and suppose if there are any major bumps, then it will not bounce like like how it was going before. So even though it's without guards it wasn't an issue, but I'll say that with the guards, it remains the more planted, and it actually adds to your stability of the bike. On a downside, I'll say that it's a little bit heavier to maneuver your bike, so that's the disadvantage. And probably another disadvantage will be when it comes to off-road, because it might get difficult. So when if you are putting a crash guard, see that they are little lighter than this, not maybe 15 kgs, but at least about 7 to 8 kgs, that should be good enough. And so for touring, you can use this crash guard for another purpose. Suppose if you mount a bottle holder or something, you can attach your bottle and you can have water without opening your bags and all that. So that's another benefit of having this side guards or upper guards, crash guards. And apart from that, what else? Okay, so now I talked about the suspension setup. Now I talk about the brakes. So these the brakes in this bike are by the company Vibre, which is Brembo subsidiary in India, and overall the braking is pretty good. It is it is better than your Himalayan or KTM. Even KTM, the 390 Adventure has got Bibrave, but I've seen the braking test. So the BMW has got a better stopping power than the KTM. So that's one. So the braking is really good, and now the ABS. Earlier in the BS4 model, they had given the ABS which was switchable. So when you're going for off-roads and all, you should disable the ABS. But now that you don't have the ABS button over here, you cannot do that off-road. The drifting you cannot do that. So that's one major disadvantage of not having ABS, which is switchable. Otherwise, the braking power, the activation of the ABS, everything I've tested out in off-roads and on-roads, and it actually helps. Okay, so it has a dual channel ABS, so that's again not something that most of the bikes under 450 usually have. Then next I'll say about the comfort. So as you can see, my legs are almost in a very comfortable position. They are almost 90 degrees, a little center set pushbacks. They are not like forward or too much rear set as well, but they are very decent position. If you look at over here, my legs are comfortably touching the tank body. So the design of the tank itself is very much comfortable for touring. And if you look at my handlebars, so the handlebars are wide, and you are sitting in an upright position, which helps you to reduce your body fatigue. So overall, in terms of comfort and ergonomics, this has really good advantage compared to KTM. The one reason maybe is because KTM has got a very high seat height of 855 mm, but this I suppose, I'm not sure, but about 820 or something, okay, or 835. So this helps to facilitate your sitting comfort. So I'll say that if someone many of the people ask me that do you have issues with your seat height. So I am 5'8", 5'9", something like that, and that's not a much bigger problem for me. Only if I am doing off-roads and I am into a position where there is an inclined or there is a slope on one side, then you can struggle at that time. So that's one thing. But otherwise, if you have luggage on the rear, right, or if you have pillion, then your legs will comfortably reach the ground if you are at 5'8" or 5'8" or above. For me, in the current setting that I am, my legs will not completely reach. I mean, the foot will not be exactly touching the ground, but it's slightly, I'll be I mean, it's good enough position, but yes, if you have a complete flat foot on the ground, then it definitely helps you out. So apart from the seat height, ergonomically there are not any major thoughts on this. The seat is very comfortable. It's very, very, very comfortable. So I mean, this is one of the best seats that you can get under I think about 8 lakh bike, right? So I think Himalayan has a decent seat, but it's not as good as this bike. Definitely some of the other bikes which have a really good seat is your Triumph Tiger or the Versys. So they have a good seat, but definitely the seat is the best. I think you can I mean, even for the pillion also the seat is so good that people are actually very comfortable, and many people who sat on the pillion seat, they even they sat this and on the for the pillion. Yes, I just forgot to mention one particular point where the pillion might feel vibrations on their foot pegs a little, but it's not that demanding. And even on the seat, some minor buzz you might feel, but that's mostly in, as I said, in the early 2500 kilometers. So don't feel bad that you're getting vibrations. It's just in the 2500 kilometer range. After that, you will definitely feel a lot of smoothness or refinement in the engine, and there will be almost no vibrations, or there will be like very rare vibrations that you will see. So okay, so that was about the comfort that I was talking about. So that was it about the comfort. Now coming to the next point of the luggage mounting capacity. So I have got the top box, and that that can carry your clothes if you are having, I mean, for a ride of normal touring rides. I think that should be sufficient to carry all your clothes. If you have a lot of electronic equipment, probably another bag, you can keep it in your tank bag or something. No, but that's not recommended. But yes, you can have another bag, a saddle bag sort of, okay, or a tail bag. Yes, saddle bags are the ones that are mounted onto the sides, but yes, they are calling it tail bag. So when I went to Bangalore, I had one tail bag with me and a top box, so that actually fit my requirement. Suppose if you are going with a pillion and you feel that this space is not enough, then you can definitely go for a saddle bag. When I go for a touring, I just have my tail bag, top box and the tank bag. So in terms of luggage carrying capacity, I'll say not excellent, because if you are going for metallic saddle bags, then you will have to put the saddle stays, like you have to actually connect the saddle stays. So that's again, that's why I'll give it a little, I'll say it's very good when it comes to the luggage mounting capacity. Refinement good, comfort excellent, suspension it is excellent, braking is very good, and apart from that, yes, one thing that I just missed out is on your LCD display. So in the LCD display, it's a very typical black and white LCD display. So if there was an electronic colored display like how the KTM 390 offers, this would have been like the best, so that's where it has a little downside, but otherwise in features it has got the electronic throttle, then also the slipper clutch, so that's good enough. I mean, that's all.